Hey everybody, Psychosaurus is here, and today I want to talk about, well, how to choose or what civ to choose as your first civ. So I'm gonna go and do some short overview of the civs and tell you which one I think is the best to start with, which one is more suited, and you can obviously leave a comment in the section what do you think about this overview. I'm not gonna go too deep into the civs, that's gonna be for some other videos, some other time. So first thing I need to mention is there are two types of civ, the so-called pro civs and premium civs, which is more of a historic reason. So the premium civs, those are Greeks, Egyptians, Celts, and Romans. And the thing about them is you start at level 1, maybe level 3 if you skip the early tutorials, and you level up all the way to 40. The reason why they are called premium is because you had access to them, just limited access, and then you had to purchase the premium civ to get the full access to the civ, so you could get epic advisors, epic gear, even rare gear, yeah, stuff like that. And the pro civs, you know them as Persians, Babylonians, and Norse, and also Indians were announced to be a pro civ. They start at level 20, and you obviously level up to 40 with those. That's the whole difference between those civs. You start either at level 1 or at level 20. And yeah, I need to mention this because obviously if you're new to the game, you don't want to start with a pro civ because you start at level 20 and you'll be like, what am I even supposed to do? So you want to start with the premium civs if you're completely new to the game. So Greeks, Egyptians, Celts, and Romans. Those are your options. However, if you're a veteran, you just want to get into the game, then you can choose whichever you want. Okay, one thing I want to mention about the pro saves is the thing that you can just create a save, go into that save, and choose your first milestones, which are passive buffs for your units, buildings, villagers. You just pick those three milestones that are currently available to you, and then you just create a one save you want to start with. You can choose one milestone per other civ. So when you create the Persian, Babylonian, and Norse, and you start as Greeks, then remember when playing as Greeks to go into your milestone tab and select one milestone from the three pro civs. Okay, that's all I need to say about this. So choosing your first civ. If you go, obviously you press the play button in the main menu, you get into the screen. Here you will be able to choose from the civ however you won't have it like this. You will have like something like this. You press the create button, name the city of the civ, and go into the game. But which civ do you want to choose actually as first? So I'm gonna help you with this, and there's also this civ overview over here. If you click on this button of the globe, you'll open this window and you can click on these emblems and you can see what's being said about the civ by Project Celeste, obviously. So if you want to know about Greeks, if you want to know about Celts, and so on and so on. I'm not gonna use that. There's some like it's some nice reading if you want to go through those. But yeah, I'm gonna talk about the civs which I want. And let's start with Greeks. So Greeks, premium civ, you start at level 1, respectively level 3 if you skip it. They are, in my opinion, the best civ for you to start with. Now, why is that? Number one reason, they have everything. Whatever you want, anything is good. Infantry, ranged, cavalry, siege, navy, they have it all. Everything's well balanced. They have also quite powerful units. They are not like they are somewhat of a, if not the strongest, then they are like somewhere in the middle. They definitely don't have the weakest units. They're somewhat expensive, obviously, and it's also what I see as a reason why they have the weakest economy, in my opinion. And with that, if you get used to that, if you get used to having the weakest economy, any other civ is all of a sudden gonna feel quite easy actually, because there is something that helps you with your economy and you will have more resources. That means more units for you to train, more resources for you to get upgrades, stuff like that. So Greeks, in my opinion, are ideal for that. Also, there's nothing really special about them. They don't have some hidden powers. They are the most classic civ you can find. If you have played Age of Empires 2 and you all of a sudden are coming here to Age of Empires Online, Greeks are gonna be the most familiar civ you're gonna get to play as here. Nothing really special about them, and that's so nice because you don't have to think about it. If you're missing something, like you're not using something, some of their strengths. Really good civs for the beginners. Great to start with, great to learn the game on. I have to say, so they are my number one civ to pick as your first civ. Okay, let's move on to Egyptians. So Egyptians, I would say Egyptians are great number 2 civ to pick as a first. Why is that? Well, Egyptians are number 1 economy civ, so with them you'll have easy time with your economy, you'll be able to train a lot of units and so on so on. If you have resources, everything's available to you. Few things you have to remember about them though. They have a special unit called Priestess of Ra, which is a priest unit, and you can use her as your combat healer, or you can use her empower ability to empower your buildings, which causes number one, your villagers will drop more resources at that building. So if you put her on your TC or your storehouse or even your docks, villagers or maybe even fishing boats, I should say as well, will drop off more resources. How much is that? It's a little over 10% and some small amount. Number 2, empowered buildings produce and research faster. By what amount? Same as the empowered, it's about 10% faster, so expect about 10% less time needed to research. And number 3, you can use the empower ability to build your buildings faster. This is also very useful because Egyptians, they age up by building temples, which is completely different from almost every other civ. To age up, you need to build a specific temple. So if you want to reach Bronze Age, you need to build Temple of Ra. If you want to reach Silver Age, Temple of Set, and Temple of Ptah for the Golden Age. Remember to use your priestesses as much as you can because they are of great help, great support. And like I mentioned, as they are building temples, that also frees your town center work time, so you can actually train villagers while you are aging up as well. So really strong economy for this civ. You'll find it that you are not lacking resources whatsoever if you are doing it right. And about their military, they start with quite weak units at their barracks, so spearmen, axemen, slingers, they are quite weak units, but they're also very cheap, and with the amount of resources you're getting, you will be able to afford all of them. So those are quantity over quality units. You can train a lot of them in short amount of time, and their upgrades also help with that. Then you switch to like stable units, which are mediocre units, so camels, chariot archers, good for mid game, and then late game you will turn on the heavy arsenal with their war elephants or the siege. Really strong civ for the late game. And as I mentioned, war elephants are gonna be your main units for the late game. A lot of players prefer the war elephants for the Egyptians as they do a lot of damage. They have splash and demolish enemy bases in no time. Great for beginners as you're gonna have an easy time. I don't like them because of how easy it is to have lots of resources with them. So once you start playing the other civs, you'll be like, oh my god, this feels so slow. Nah, Egyptians are just too fast. I like them, just I feel like they are not the most ideal civ to start with. But still great for beginners as well. Let's move on to Celts. So Celts, they are one of the best infantry civs you'll find in the game. Unlike many other civs, their cavalry is quite weak. The only cavalry unit they actually have is their horsemen, which is, I would say it's okay, but it's light armored, that it has literally no armor at all, so it pretty much has just high health and that's pretty much it. And instead of that, I would say their infantry can somewhat compensate for the lack of good cavalry units. They are faster naturally. Instead of having base speed of 6, they'll have the base speed of 7. They have really good damage. You can also support them with the druids, which heal during the combat while also buffing their damage while healing them. So you're gonna have really strong units early game. Later you will get access to their fast and high damage dealing Volt Raiders, which are more like a suicide unit, but once you see them in action you're gonna love them. And Volt Raiders are somewhat of a replacement for the cavalry units in my opinion, as their speed is much higher than of a typical infantry. Yeah, the burst damage they're gonna do with the charge attack is just gonna be devastating to the enemy units. And then obviously the mighty champions, which are heavy units that do a lot of damage with small splash radius as well. If you put them together with druids, that's a lot of damage. Celts also have a Bard Hall, which is a building where you research upgrades for your infantry, further improving their health, damage and movement speed. You also have access to augurs, which can use their rites to buff your units globally for a duration, and depending on the situation greatly improves the power effectiveness or allows you to train your units faster. Celts also bring some good ranged units to support them, whether it's for their long-ranged bowmen or their hard-hitting carpentoms. About their economy, Celts have access to sacred deer, which are trained at the sacred grove, which can be used for the augur rites, or you can use them as a food source, as they are herdables. Celts also have access to gold mines, which is a great way to improve the gold mining effectiveness, and can keep your villagers gathering gold safe and sound. So overall, really strong infantry that can be put together with great support, whether for their priest units or for their ranged units. Celts are quite aggressive thanks to their high damage, and their late game power should not be underestimated whatsoever. Would I recommend them as your first civ? I would say they are great first civ, but I would say they are number 3 first civ. So still a good choice, but there's a lot of things to remember about Celts that can help you improve your game. Okay, now we are moving on to Persians, which are the first pro civ mentioned here. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of Persians, okay, but if you are going for Persians, few things to keep in mind. First, they have pretty good balanced army as well, similar to Greeks. They have good infantry, they have great ranged units, pretty good cavalry as well, pretty good siege. The navy is there as well. One good thing to keep in mind about Persians is their storehouses can be upgraded to heal nearby allied units, which can help you greatly in early game with your defense, and healing should not be underestimated whatsoever. Persians also have so-called toggle tags, which you can turn on and turn off whenever you like. All you need is your war academy to be built and ready. Then whenever you want to toggle it on, you just select war academy and toggle whatever you like. These toggle tags are quite powerful, as they can lower training time of your military units or your villagers as well, but also you need to include their cost changes, whether it's higher cost or villager cost being turned into gold. So careful with that. But is it a huge help? Yes, it is. In the Persian army you'll also find a unit called Immortal, which is an infantry unit that actually has 2 damage types. They have melee attacks and range attacks, which is the most unique thing you'll find in this game. What is my problem with Immortals is their gold cost is quite high, and they cost food and wood as well, so quite expensive unit to train. But if you have the resources to train those, well, those are resources well spent. Those units are very powerful, it's just quite annoying to get there and pay for them. Persians are just very expensive on the gold for their most powerful units. So whether it's Immortals, Cataphracts, it's just gonna cost you quite a lot of gold. So that's what I would consider their weakness. I feel like they lack some good building damage outside of their rams and palinterons, but if you get used to it, it's a really strong civ. And as I said, they are pro civs, so I do not recommend them as your first civ at all, and they can be somewhat challenging to learn, as the early game you just don't have really that strong units. They are okay to use, but not the most powerful. So careful with that. Remember to use your storehouses as your 8-10 and heal your units to help you defend. Okay, moving on to Romans, and these are probably the most powerful civ you'll find for your legendary quests. Romans, they are premium civs, so they start at level 1. They are very powerful units. The theme of the unit is quality over quantity. You'll find here very powerful units, but also very expensive units. So what the Romans have to offer for you? Number 1, they have access to engineer that will help you build up your base faster, and it can also free some of your villager work time on construction. That helps you save some resources already. Remember to use your engineer as much as possible because their construction speed is gonna be very useful. Unlike the other civs, Romans have access to a tech called Abacus, which will help you with your early gold. But if you have too much food or wood, you can sell it at your market after getting this tech. It's definitely great for Bronze Age. So if you have trouble with gold, this can help you. They also have a forum, which is their tech building, where you can get some really strong upgrades. One upgrade that is worth mentioning is SPQR tech that lowers the cost and training time of your villagers while also increasing the gold conservation while mining from the gold mines. So really great tech to help you with your villager production as well as having more gold from gold mines. Romans also have very special units called officer units. These are very powerful units. Each of the officer unit has its own special power, whether it's Decurion being the heavy cavalry available to you in Bronze Age, or they're hard-hitting centurions, or they're buffing and debuffing aquilifers and primus pilus. You should always try to have at least one aquilifer in your Roman army, as well as getting the primus pilus to make enemy units weaker. And also you have access to Clinicus, which is one of the best healers in the game. So definitely worth getting that priest. And as I said, quality over quantity. The Roman units are heavily armored, which means when you put them together with Clinicus, that's a lot of extra health you're gonna get. So remember, use the engineers. You have really good ways to improve your economy to help you with your expensive units. Officer units are very powerful. Remember to get aquilifers and primus pilus if you can. And would I recommend Romans as number 1 big civ? No. And the reason is quite simple. Their quest can be somewhat challenging. It might be very difficult for a new player who's not used to the speed of the game, as there are a lot of quests with way too many units if you ask me. So I would suggest playing as Romans after you've played some other civ. I would say play as Greeks before Romans, and then you can go with Romans. Okay, we're gonna move on to Babylonians. And Babylonians, they are the second economic civ that you'll find in this game. And why is that? Number 1, they have access to ox carts. Ox carts are a very unique unit. They serve as a mobile storehouse, and you already start with one storehouse at the beginning of the quest or PvP match. Good thing about them is they are mobile, so you have no need to rebuild them, which means you are gonna save some wood by not building storehouses, which is already good as it sounds. However, the way you train them is at the town centers, which means if you are gonna get more, you need to use your town centers, which means you cannot produce villagers for the time being. That is not a huge problem, as Babylonians age up to Bronze Age by building a ziggurat, which is their temple. And then to reach higher ages, they research their Silver Age and Golden Age at the ziggurat. So that means your TCs have some more time to produce your villagers, which helps a lot. Another thing about Babylonians are their gardens that actually improve the train time of all of your units that you have available. So that includes villagers as well. If you get few gardens, you all of a sudden are producing villagers faster. So you're gonna have a lot of villagers thanks to those. However, one thing about the gardens, the more you build, the more expensive are gonna be. So make sure you don't lose your gardens that often, okay? About the army composition, Babylonians, have a lot of ranged units at the arsenal, whether it's the bowmen, slingers at the archery range, or their faster moving mounted archers, chariot archers, or war chariots. You have a lot of ranged units available to you. What's gonna be a really great strength to your army will be the Babylonian lancers. Those are cavalry units specialized against infantry, and once you get the champion upgrade, they will be able to charge at the enemies, dealing a lot of damage to the enemy unit hit. And as I've already mentioned, the more guardians you have, the faster your unit production is gonna be. So Babylonian army is easy to replace thanks to their guardians. And you're also gonna have a lot of wood thanks to the ox carts, and no need to rebuild the storehouses. And as the storehouse is moving with the wood line, you're gonna have a lot of wood. So really good civ. What I feel like they're lacking is some heavy units that would be really good health and really good damage. They don't have that. They have just weaker units that are easier to replace, so they always keep their numbers up, and that's what's the strength of the civ. So remember, build your gardens, don't lose them, they are quite expensive the more you have, and make sure you use your ox carts well. Ox carts are a very strong tool in your arsenal. Make sure you use them as much as you can. Okay, and we're gonna move on to the final civ that is currently available, and that's the Norse. So Norse I would describe as a strong infantry civ with also pretty good cavalry units. The most unique thing about Norse is the fact that their infantry units can actually build military buildings. So this can help you save some villager time by constructing your military buildings with your infantry. You usually start with 3 spearmen, you can use them to build your buildings. Norse also have 2 scouts instead of 1. 1 melee, 1 ranged. The ranged one is just like any other scout. It builds their watch post, it's just a little bit slower and has a little bit health. And their melee scout is actually able to build your barracks. If you play champion mode, you can use that scout to build your barracks, your first barracks, and train some infantry, and then you can build more barracks thanks to the additional infantry. So very useful thing to have available to you. What's also worth noticing is that their watch posts actually can train war dogs, which are a weak unit that are good at chasing enemy units. If they attack them, they snare them heavily. That's the good thing about war dogs. If you play PvP, chasing units should be easy with war dogs. There are also somewhat good tanks. If you're playing PvE, you just put a lot of health on them, and the war dogs are considered to be huntables. There's not that many units with bonus against huntables, so war dogs are actually good tanks as they are taking much less damage. 2 no multipliers against huntables. Really good unit. What's also important is the Great Hall. At the Great Hall you can train seers and chiefs. Seer is a priest unit that is specialized at converting. It cannot heal your unit, but it has also a special ability which is unique. It can summon a raven, which is the only flying unit you'll find in the game, and it serves as a scout. So if you feel like you lack some information on the map, use your seer, summon the raven, scout around and see for yourself. Chiefs, I will describe chief as the Roman officer unit. It's just available to Norse. You can have only 1 at a time. Chiefs have aura that increases the Norse unit's health, and the Norse units actually have pretty good health. So if you put them together with chief, you're getting a huge improvement to your Norse army. One thing that's also worth mentioning are their long ships. They serve as your typical arrow ship, but they also have ability to transport your units. So if you're looking for a transport, you don't have to go with merchant transports, you train the long ships and you have a faster transport. That's also really useful thing. So if you like an aggressive civ, Norse might be a good civ for you, as they are very aggressive. They can easily build forward bases, they can also easily mass produce their units. Their throwing axemen are actually very unique, as they are infantry that do infantry damage, but they have also range, so great range DPS, and also since Buildings have no melee infantry armor, quite good against buildings as well. Their raiders are really good against enemy villagers. You might find a lot of stuff to like about Norse, and definitely don't start with Norse, okay? Get used to some other civs before them, okay? Not really great first civ, but really fun civ to play as. Okay, and last civ should be the Indians. However, I don't have full information about them. They will be coming some time later. So far, all I know about them is that they're gonna be also very strong economy civ, as they will have additional unit to help them gather resources called the Elephant Gatherer. So it should be something like a Roman engineer, but specialized at gathering, not building buildings. And the villages are gonna be mainly about building buildings. There's still some stuff to know about Indians. All I know that their team is gonna be choose one tech, where you will have multiple techs. You choose one, and you'll be getting only that one tech, and the others will not be available to you. And as I've mentioned, there will be pro civ, so level 20. Okay, and I guess that's all I have to say. I'll definitely go more deep into the civs in some time later in one of my future videos. So yeah, I hope you like this. Tell me what you think in the comment section. I didn't want to go too deep into the civ, as I'll be describing that sometime later. So tell me what you think. Did I miss something? Did I forgot to say something? I'll try to remember when I'll be when I'll be making those future videos. So yeah, like this, share this. If you're a new player, tell me how much this helped you. And I'll see you next time. Bye!